Ball beagles and then one in my brother's power now, 237 now, and I don't know if it's only I think we replaced the pole, and then we had somebody come in and transform it. I guess they're even not that bad. You used to bless the catch lines on fire. In India, it's like it wasn't one outage. It's just like a little outage, like this was one outage. That's the worst. That's all we need to do. Wow. Hi. How are you?
All rise, please. Your Honor, would you please pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you that we can come here tonight and we can do the business in the city of Newcastle. Lord, I pray a blessing upon our city. Pray there'll be a hedge of protection around it. And just give us wisdom tonight in Jesus' name. Amen. Yes, sir. Okay, roll call, please.
Mike Duffy, Jeff Hancock, Jerry Walden.
Here.
Aaron Dickon.
Here.
Mark Cover.
Here.
Lynn Purdue.
Here.
Rex Beckles.
Here. Okay, any additions or corrections to the minutes? Make a motion to accept. It's been moved. Been seconded. Okay, so, take a roll call vote. There's no discussion.
Jerry Walden. Aaron Dickon.
Aye.
Mark Cover.
Aye.
Lynn Purdue.
Aye.
Rex Beckles.
Aye. Okay, are there any additions or corrections to the agenda? If not, we'll accept it as presented. It's time for public comments and special presentations. So anybody that would like to come forward, I know we have Cindy Brooks, the Miracle League.
Actually, she called this afternoon and said they're not going to be able to make it after all.
Okay, yeah, please.
I just got some questions. Are you good? Trojan Lane on the food and beverage, where do we stand on that?
We've been approved for about 120,000. So, but I haven't collected any of it yet. I haven't needed to. We just completed 2 more islands this week. And I talked to Gary today, so I just go down and pick up a bill for that and submit that. Now, we still have some money left through the city council that was appropriated for it. So,
Well, that's what have you done food and beverage before?
No.
You have to have a 20% match. And so,
and we've done that through the city.
Yeah,
We
you've
did all
got
the
that.
excavation for it. Yeah.
but on each invoice that you give them, you put the 20% that you paid. So like if you have a,
I did. I don't know.
$10,000 bill,
We have to show on there that
That
you give it
you pay
2,000
10%, and then they will do that. So I would start using it as soon as possible, because you have a window.
Yeah, I was told 2 years, 18 months.
I think it's 18 months, a year and a half. And so I would use that. That was one of them.
And do we have a final design on the mural yet? Do we have a final
Not on
quote?
that committee, I don't know.
Who's on the committee?
I think that's what you see is the final design. I know that I was not present because I was out of town, but I think they met with the Preservation Commission. I'm just not sure what the final say was.
So she's done?
I mean, what
Well,
she's
I saw
painted,
it.
she's got pretty much the content up there at this point.
I think she'll be done Friday with all she can do this year.
Okay.
And because of weather, I mean, the forecast is in the 30s after this weekend, and so I think she's done it. I think the only thing that she needs to add to it is the arch of Baker Park. And I think that will be below the horse and far north side, and then I think she's planning on, the weather cooperates, she'll have the men's names on it by Friday, but if not, she'll do the final touches first thing next spring. This,
Do we have we received a quote on that? I know Mr. Brown was here months ago, and he said it'd be around.
Mr. Brown's not involved with it anymore. The owner of the building is taking complete authority and ownership of the project. From what I understand you've had conversations with him.
I talked to Mr. McCall the other day.
And so he's, it's totally in his hands now.
So will it cost more than 40? Does
No.
the city know?
No, again, he was just, we were just talking over lunch, but he was just kind of going by what he thought and what he talked to her about. He seemed to think that they would be somewhere under, maybe quite a bit of 40.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be good for us.
Yeah.
Well, under the 5,000.
Yeah, 5,000 is
Yeah.
there available for Main Street to make repairs on the ground or upgrade that corner.
From conversation with her, I think in her mind, it's going to be considerably under the 35.
That's what
But
I got.
But I don't know exactly what that figure is.
That's a little slow.
I'm gonna have my picture put up there.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Hey, if you're willing to pony up enough.
I got five. Yeah, you have to put me up.
We'll
I
see
think you
about
have to
that.
be dead to be on the wall, so I don't want to be on it.
It's too soon.
Okay, my next question, I was very surprised. On the last council meeting that I was at, and we talked about, budget was not mentioned, and then I get home the next day and open the paper, and we're $6 million in the red due to insurance. I feel like we had passed the budget, something should have been said.
The budget, according to statute, is presented by the mayor in the form of the budget. We, as a council, have very little input on the budget itself. We're not like the kids. We're a third-class city, and so there are different rules and regulations for us in a second or third or a first-class city, or for the county. The county has budget hearings, and they hear each department, and they allocate the money. That's not what we do. We are presented the budget by the mayor. Our choices are to pass the budget or to not pass the budget. Your Honor, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's to pass the budget or not pass the budget. We do have the right, and you can correct me too, Mr. Russell.
Sure.
We do have the right to, other than on salaries, we have the right to cut the budget. We could go in and we could say, we want to take $50,000 out of the MVH budget. But we couldn't say we want to take, we couldn't say we want to take $50,000 out of that budget and give it to the parks, because all we can do is say, we want to take that money out of the budget. That's our only option according to state law. Is that pretty correct? So we also generally, and I am really going to speak to this, but we generally get the budget at a point in time where we don't have very many options other than to pass the budget, because if we don't pass it by a certain date, then our budget automatically goes back, or we automatically stay the same. In other words, if if we negotiated that we're going to do a 2% raise to our employees, and then all of a sudden we don't pass the budget, it reverts back, and maybe in the contract says we're supposed to give a 2% raise, but our budget doesn't have 2% in it because we voted down the budget. So we're kind of handcuffed on where to go with the budget. Now we are, I think, probably if we look at those sheets that were given to us last week, we're closer to 7 or 8 million in the red, depending on how we look at things coming.
Right. Can I speak for just a minute
Yeah,
about
please,
that?
please.
As far as the budget goes, DLGF has to approve that budget before it comes to the council, and I don't meet with them until the end of August. So it's hard to get it all in there and still have it passed by the end of October, because I didn't meet with her until like the 21st of August this year to get my budget approved. And you can't bring it to council until DLGF approves it.
And that takes into account the circuit breakers and everything else.
Correct. We had almost a $5 million with the tax cap. The city, it was 4.7 million or something like that this year that we don't get because of the tax cap.
Now, I do understand some of that working in the school corporation and the food service and the events and the budget. I do understand some of that, but in the paper, the way I understood it, it was mainly due to insurance.
It's 100% due to insurance.
Well, except there's about another probably 2 million that's some other things.
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah.
that's just, but now, here's why, and I'm not, I'm not putting blame on anybody, but for a number of years, and I think Eric can correct me if I'm wrong here, but for a number of years, the amount that we were told, we weren't, but the amount that Mr. Estill told the city that we needed to budget for insurance was never budgeted for that, up to that amount. And so therefore, for a number of years, each year we went in the hole a little deeper.
Which each year you realize that you're getting in the hole.
I think it wasn't realized until we were probably 5 million under. I think we, and then I think another year or two passed before Brenda and I sat down to figure out how to dig ourselves out. And I would probably clarify, I mean, Mr. Peckinpah is pretty right. I've been digging into this, so I'm going to speak kind of vaguely because I don't have all the figures and I can't speak 100% confidently yet. But from 2008 to 2012, we were in the black in the insurance fund. And then from 2012 on is when we started going down. And the plan itself performed well in the last 7 years, with the exception of 2 years. That line doesn't just pay the claims. It also pays the retiree Medicare. It pays the HealthLink fees, which again, HealthLink, I know seems like an expense, but compared to the claims amount that we would get if everybody, instead of going to a free clinic, went to a primary care doctor, there is net savings there. I'm trying to compile a spreadsheet just so we can, pull it out and talk about it if it comes to that. It takes into consideration, the annual claims expenditures, the specific stop loss claims, which is reimbursement for claims over $150,000. The employees, what they pay, that it takes that into consideration, and everything, just to give a more accurate picture on it, because I think without an hour to 2 hour class of digging into the details, I think the general person is gonna have a difficult time understanding.
Also, if I could add here, the State Board of Accounts knows about that. And we have submitted a plan, Brenda has submitted a plan that they feel will move us to, to a righted ship.
Good.
So.
Good.
It's not
Well,
something
John-
that's gonna happen overnight.
And they're budgeting more, we're
Yes.
budgeting more toward insurance. So I mean, yeah, we're in debt, but we're moving in the right direction.
Because we are currently having to keep up with the current year, which is a hell of a time to do that, pandemic and post-pandemic, on top of digging ourselves out of a hole.
Josh has given us some extremely good advice, and we've actually changed providers, and it should make at least $1 million to the good difference a year, and that has helped, and from what I'm told, that's been working. And outside one accident, our insurance would have been just phenomenal this year. But I mean, that's what we have insurance for, is
Yes,
for that
we got
coverage.
it.
It's exactly what it's for.
Especially for our employees.
But it is trending in the right direction. And Josh has made some really good advice for us, and it's worked out well, and we rebudgeted numbers, so it's moving in the right direction, I feel. Aaron, you could probably talk about that.
If 50% of what should be budgeted is budgeted for 5 years in a row, that's going to compound, obviously, and add up pretty quickly. So then you're having to change the budget and budget more for the current year while you're also trying to dig out. And I think that's where we're at. And like the mayor said, I think we're trending in the right direction. I think it'll be 2-3 more years, and that's part of insurance. If we all had a magic 8 ball and could know what we were going to do each year, and the pandemic was coming, have those expenditures, insurance probably wouldn't be around.
Well,
Yeah.
Patty, if I can say something, I read the article too. Now, before we voted on the budget, I directly asked about that. We were 2 years earlier, we were $5 million in arrears. And I asked, okay, how are we doing on that? Are we moving in the right direction? And I was assured that we were, by Brenda and Aaron seconded that we're moving in the right direction. So on that discussion, I voted for the budget. And when I read in the paper that we were $6 million in the red, it's too late, but I have to tell you, I was kind of blindsided. It's like, well.
I think that's what I was. I was
Yeah.
more blindsided. Because I feel like when I come to these meetings, the reason I come is because I care. And we hear people talk. Well, what are they doing here? What are they doing there? And I'll say, I went to the meeting. I know what they're doing. They are transparent in this. But when my phone started ringing, I said, I went to the meeting and nothing was said.
Yeah, it's.
Well, go ahead, sorry.
Well, I would just like to say, I'd like to be transparent about it. I mean, if you'd have told me that we're really like $6 million in red, but we got a plan, and I felt good about it, I probably would have the same way. But I didn't like that article coming out right after I asked that question.
I'm just gonna tell you, in prior years, they were budgeting with $2.4 million. And we were having, three and a half million in claims. Now we're budgeting.
On top of
the, yes.
the Medicare,
Yes.
the Health Link.
So now we're budgeting almost $4 million on that. So that is to take care of what's projected and make up some of that loss.
That's
Which-
wonderful. Just
And again, I mean, that number, I think, is a scary number for somebody who doesn't deal with, multi-million-dollar budgets or insurance. For a city our size, that's probably pretty average in terms of claims.
Yes, I agree.
But the city has the best insurance of
I
anybody
also
around.
agree.
We have better insurance than the hospital. We have better insurance than the
School
county,
corporation.
better than the school. Now, one thing that we could have done that everybody else didn't do is we did not use the spousal carve out. We felt like that was an opportunity. The spousal carve out means if you work for the city and your husband works somewhere else, he's supposed to try to get insurance through the other provider first. If he doesn't have good insurance, that could cost anywhere from $800 to $1,200 to $1,500 a month. So, we were the only one, and I don't know how long
You can have pulled out.
that we will be able to hold that out, but we felt like that was a perk for our city employees.
And I agree.
It's
I agree.
it's costly, but it's a perk, but it's an expensive perk.
Now, I also know the county, I think, I'm not positive, and Joel can help me on this, the commissioners or the council does not receive insurance, is that correct?
I don't know that off the top of my head.
I think I asked it at a meeting at one time.
Yeah, I don't know that off the top of my head who's eligible, who's not. Among
They are
elected
eligible.
officials.
Mike Falls had county insurance, they were still on the
I
same.
think all elected officials are, every state. I've talked to other councilmen from other states. All elected officials are offering insurance.
I will ask it again because that, if they are classified as a part-time,
Well, I think the issue here was just the meeting,
Right.
$6 million difference. That's what the discussion's about.
that was what,
Yeah.
and we've solved that.
Yeah.
And as Greg said, I hate to see cut any employees' insurance.
Well, we're proud that we have good insurance, but
Yes.
insurance is, it's expensive.
Well, and right now, the way things are, we cut insurance and we lose more policemen and firemen. and
Yeah.
we're all-
No, I don't
you know,
want
we're-
that. I do not want
Because
that.
it works out, it's a compensation package. I mean, you could probably, I'm not probably take an actuarial like my nephew. They can probably tell you what the total compensation package is for each employee in terms of what their insurance is. And so you have to, if that total compensation is 55,000, you gotta keep it at 55,000. When you cut something, you're gonna have to put something back in.
Yes, you should.
So,
We've got two good employees. Thank you for your time.
anyone else? Okay, Mr. Murphy?
But they're double-sided, so it's really full.
Four, you snuck four in those two.
No, those are yours, don't give her.
Oh, thank you.
We'll share. Make sure.
You watch that. Honest. I'm sorry.
Appreciate you giving me just a couple minutes. Let's start with this one here. So on behalf of the Board of Aviation, myself, Tom Green, Don Cummings, Paul Jansen, and Keith Pritchett are your Board of Aviation. Four of them are pilots and I'm the idiot on the board, okay? I learn something every single day. We had a work session this morning. I learned something again, but anyway, that's not the point. So the state of Indiana, through the Department of Aviation, contracted with a firm to do a statewide aviation system plan. And so this is our part of it. If you look on the back, minimum service level recommendations. These are guidance, not a requirement. So I'm going to read it. It should be noted that these are not requirements for airport performance. Instead, these are recommendations for the facility based on its current category. We perform very, very well. The one area that we don't meet the recommendation is runway strength. I talked to Tom Green before coming to give you this presentation, and he says it's really not an issue. We can handle heavy aircraft, heavier than that, and they can land there every day and not be a problem. I'm most interested in the economic output, though. Bottom right-hand corner, $6.5 million in economic output in the airport. In terms of update, the apron or expanded aircraft parking is nearly finished. We're also going to get some expanded automobile parking out there through a partnership. And so when you pull in, you've got the fence. We're going to add to the, help me, Mayor.
East.
Thank you. East. Sometimes you have to know when to ask for help. And I need help on directions. So on the east end, we're going to expand the automobile parking. We have an automatic weather system through a partnership with IU Health. I think I sent you all an email on that, but it is in test mode. We're waiting on the FAA to come inspect, but the pilots tell me they still get all the information they need, even if it's in test mode. And that's a big deal. In terms of a weather forecast or weather reporting, time, real live, we were a black hole. You could get a weather report out of Anderson, you could get a weather report out of Richmond, but not Newcastle. And that's a big deal when you're flying. You need to know the weather where you're going. And so that's important. And then the board recently approved an expenditure to acquire some technology to allow us, it's called an airport monitoring system, additional software for the airport, $6,000 for 5 years. And we'll likely get that back in a state grant. But what that'll allow us to do is track more accurately the landings and the takeoffs at the airport. If the aircraft is equipped with some technology. And I can tell you, because you may not know the difference, but I think it's ADBS or ABS. Come on, help me out.
ABS.
Yes, automatic braking system. Any questions regarding the airport? Then I want to give you an economic development.
Thanks for your participation on that board. It's greatly appreciated from this council. Appreciate it.
How's the heliport doing?
Busy.
They satisfied with
As far as I know, yes. Glad to serve. Thank you for your continued support of the airport. So all this word vomit here with my picture on it, so that'll be lining for your kitty litter box tonight. But this is a copy. Come on, that was fun. Come on. All right. So this is a copy from the most recent Chamber magazine, and I would have brought you the entire magazine because it is a fantastic magazine marketing our community, but they're just not quite available yet in bulk. But I'd like for you to read this sometime because your investment, the council's investment, the mayor's investment, the city's investment over the years has led to what I believe a renaissance downtown. There's so much energy downtown. And that's what I'm talking about. I know that's a lot of words, but thank you for your leadership in that regard. The other side of that document is a print off of our Make My Move. That's the people attraction. You all dedicated some of your ARP money to that in cooperation with the county. Thank you. The bottom left-hand corner is the website. Please go there. And if I remember, I'll send you the link. That way you don't have to type this out. But there is a 3-minute video that was prepared by Make My Move. All our office did was identify some people that might be good behind the camera. But they put it together, and it is phenomenal. It tells a story of our county, but also our city in this people attraction effort. And then I want to give you some stats. So unique views on this page to make my move, and this is as of last week, 1,088. Applications 104. Pre-qualified is 7, and we've made 1 offer. I don't know that that person has signed yet, but I've been keeping Council President Peckinpah up to date on this, but you haven't seen my face, and I didn't want you to forget about it. So I figured I'd come and give you a little update. Happy to answer any other questions.
Now, this is an incentive package for a private citizen to move to town?
Yes.
Not businesses, anyone, okay.
Out of state.
Out of
Got to
state.
come from out of state, and they have to either bring a remote job with them of at least $50,000 a year or more, or they can come and work at one of our employers. So in theory, well, not in theory, the city, if they were attracting somebody from out of state, they could get the same package.
Okay. They gotta apply for it, and then.
Well, they got to move to the county,
Yeah. And then
take the
apply.
job.
Okay.
Make my move, they're after remote workers. We are too. But I want to make the same package available to somebody moving here from out of state and working for one of our employers. Whether that be the school corporation, whether that be Crown, any company in Henry County.
But this is not a given. They apply for it, and then only so many are awarded.
And they'll have to stay here for a period.
Well, they've got a lot of other communities to choose from. I mean, we're one of many.
In the nation. This is a nationwide.
It is a nationwide effort. We're contracted, and through the help of this council, we're funded for 20 in the first year.
Okay.
For 20 people, 20 families, 20.
And Make My Move thinks they'll make it.
Okay, great. Was not aware of that.
Make My Move is an Indiana company founded by the former executives at Angie's Nest. So in terms of the marketing and the secret sauce, they know what we're doing. We're marketing it local to our local employers. So if they're trying to attract somebody from out of town, out of state, to move here, they could have the same benefit.
Gotcha. I remember that now, but I just forgot the scope of what all it entails.
I just remembered I want to tell you one more thing. Can I tell you one more thing? One more, just one more, I promise. The Economic Development Corporation and the City Redevelopment Commission sponsored, or co-sponsored, funded a hotel feasibility study, an independent hotel feasibility study. We have the results of that study back, and it says good, positive environment. A cliche term when you're looking at a business plan is will that dog hunt? Yes, the dog will hunt. So what we're doing is we're trying to connect, so the company interested in doing business here is Cobblestone. Cobblestone has targeted Newcastle as a place that they would like to build a hotel. Their business model is franchise. They're looking for franchisees. So what the Economic Development Corporation is we are spreading the word that we have a company interested in doing business here. We've done an independent study. In other words, the study wasn't done by Cobblestone. It says, yeah, this might work. We have the financial projections that are pretty positive, but they're just projections. No bank guarantee, no FDIC. But we think our community needs this. And so if you are interested, or you know of somebody that might be interested in considering it, give our office a call. And we'll connect them to the Vice President of Business Development at Cobblestone. Locations that we're looking at, generally speaking, downtown, Northfield Park, Trojan Lane area, and then the consultant included the industrial park as well. My bet is that if and when we're able to assemble the franchise group, in other words, local investors, local owners, they will decide where the hotel's built in collaboration with the city. I can tell you that if we get this off the ground, you'll see me again talking about an incentive for the hotel. The primary incentive would come probably through the redevelopment commission, but depending on the type, it would need your blessing. And so I just wanted to give you a heads up that that's being worked on.
So Cobblestone is hoping that someone local will step up, or a group, and buy the franchise.
Yes.
For this.
That is their business model. They specialize in smaller markets.
Well, partnership in the franchise, partnership.
Yeah. So they were founded in Wisconsin in 2008. They have 165 locations in 28 different states. But here's what I like. Newcastle's on the larger size of the population in the towns they're in. They'll go, so there are 3 in Indiana. The closest one to us is in Brookville. Brookville's much smaller than Newcastle, but you have the tourism component, okay, fine. Well, Salem, Indiana is down about an hour and 15 north of Louisville. My people settled Salem, right? My great-great-great-grandfather. Its population 6,500 and 25 miles off the interstate. They've got a Cobblestone. And then there's one in Charlestown, Indiana, population 8,000. So they specialize in what I'll call the small town markets. And they've been very, very successful.
And you had even told them that we were looking to another hotel in Newcastle, and they were fine with that. They said they thought we could support too.
Is Cobblestone the name of the hotel, or just the group?
That is the name.
That is, so I could research that.
You could.
Okay.
And if you want additional information, give me a call.
Do you have any numbers?
I do.
Well, money numbers, financial, as far as investment?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a detailed pro forma.
Okay.
It's a $10 million project in round figures. $7 million is bank finance and $3 million is equity, excluding the land.
Okay.
They'll find them some land.
Do we have a local institution willing to do the 7?
We are talking, and I say we, I'm not really talking. The gentleman's name from Cobblestone is Chris Hart, and I connected him to Citizens State Bank. I connected them to First Merchants, and I connected them to First Financial. They want to use local financial institutions, although they don't have to. That concludes your commercial for a hotel franchise. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, anyone else? Mrs. Ketter, do you want to speak to this, please?
Hey everybody, how are you?
Good.
Good. So I'm here to present a new rendering for the Murphy Building and the Senior Citizens Building. So this is kind of the idea I came up with. And I can pass this around if anyone wants to see the bigger version of it.
I passed it. They all have a copy of these.
Okay, cool. So, does anyone have any questions?
Well, this was preempted by, we put some windows in it a few years ago. We put a new roof on it. Aaron wanted to do some tuck pointing on it, but the whole building is a project. The front doors on the building right now are just absolutely junk. You almost get in every morning, don't you, Corey? Just about the key works. Sometimes.
It's not like Jumanji, Mayor. Have you watched the movie?
No.
Okay, all right.
But
haven't?
No, I can't say
This is a discussion point itself.
I can't sit through that. I'm trying.
Hit up a red box.
So that facility is a project in itself. We just put a new roof on portions of it, and it's not to be piecemeal. If we're gonna continue to own this building, we need to, it needs to be nice. So I asked her if she would do a rendering for us, and this is, in theory, turning the ground level back to wood instead of aluminum. That looks a lot like Mike and Scott's insurance building up just one block south of that, to get it to look more historic than it does all aluminum. From what I understand, this is one of the third in the top 3 most historic buildings in Newcastle or Henry County. Aaron, you?
Yeah, that's, I mean, behind the courthouse, the jail building.
Something like that, okay. So, if we're going to do it, I mean, we're not going to make any decisions today, but I want her to do this presentation today. I put some numbers on the backside of it of what it would cost to bring it to this. This would be nothing we do this year. This would be next year, a project for next year.
Okay, do you feel that for this amount of money, we can get this project done for this amount of money?
She hasn't seen the number yet.
Okay.
I haven't seen the number. I
So,
know
all
the
right.
paint prices.
She got some of the prices for me, but she hasn't seen them all
No, I
compiled.
haven't seen.
Well, maybe by next week, you can kind of look at it and see what you think.
Sure.
But I appreciate you, Your Honor, you know, seeing that we want to get something done with this and taking the lead to get with Stephanie to get this, because I do look at this as a project, full project. And certainly if we can get that done, it'd be great. We've already allocated 150, so our allocation out of this would, if we decided to do this, is going to be another
Off of that.
335,000. So I mean, and we could have that if we so desired, but we're not going to vote on this tonight.
Well, did we allocate that money for roof?
We allocated that money for, when the roof has been done, we allocated 150, was it 150 or 120? We allocated money for cut point that we haven't used, and we can easily just repurpose that money.
Okay, all right, okay.
But it needs scraped or sandblasted or power washed before we can even get to the tuck point. I mean, it's a whole plan. It's not just let's piecemeal it. If we're going to do it, we need to do it right. And
I really appreciate it.
There's 2 colors match the marble building, which will butt up against on the south side and on the north side. So well, I don't know what color you call that green, but it's kind of a charcoal navy blue. And
Maybe the charcoal maybe, and then cement green.
Well,
for the senior citizens.
we'll think about this, and you think about it, and then the next meeting, maybe you can come back and we can
Sure.
be a little more serious. You always do great work, thank you.
I have to say, you know, I want to say something about this because this is first brought up through the BRAC program, basically to get the roof fixed. And I think I mentioned it'd be a time for the city to get out of property ownership. When Stephanie showed me these pictures at Caitlin's cookie sale, it blew my socks off. It's amazing that those 2 structures, if they turn out to look like this, Mr. Mayor, it's another center point to our city. I didn't imagine this. You know, I just want to get the roof fixed. Because if you don't have good roof, you're not going to have good inside or outside. It doesn't just affect the inside, it affects the outside too. This is beyond my dreams, you know, I never fathomed this. I appreciate that you're looking at this, Mr. Mayor, that you're going to get involved with it, going to be involved in the right way, so I really appreciate that.
Just to squeeze in my 2 cents, sorry about. I just sent some old photos to you, Stephanie, and Kendra and the Mayor of, because this has been a building that's kind of been on my mind for the last couple of years. There's a lot of unique, great history that I think we can tap into. And as I have, gotten involved with Indiana Landmarks more and more, it's been intriguing and interesting to me how they look at historic preservation on these types of old buildings. I love the design, just would really love to see maybe some more nods to that original building. But that's something that, I think this is a good opportunity and partnership for Indiana Landmarks. We have, Brittany Miller, who's the director of our region, on the Preservation Commission board now as a staff member. I think there's some really great opportunity for partnerships there too. So
We're still in public comment.
There it is. Just a question, and I did the same suggestion to the county commissioners meeting when I was there last week. You have talked about buildings and not having ownership of buildings anymore, and I know it's come up in conversation about the senior center wanting to move. So, I really think you should look at the ownership issue. And it's the same thing I brought up to the county too, that if you have buildings you're not using or going to plan on vacating, get them back on your roll. So I get the Murphy building, but you might want to look if you're realistically going to keep that building for 10 years, the one next door, or should you invest the money in something else you have? So it's just something to bring to the plate. I asked the county commissioners about the old Eddie Dyer building, and that was a concern too, because it's semi-storage area, so it's still on the Broad Street.
which is that one? For
Not
those
as
of
old as me.
us that don't even remember
The
going to
transitional
the
sales.
JC.
We're next to the EMS building.
Yeah, and that's empty, and that's just a building sitting empty, so I'd rather us use our money for the buildings that we're gonna maintain and put those back on the tax bracket if you could, so.
Who's involved in the senior center? Like if they wanted to move to a larger location with a more easily accessible building and lot, who does that come down to?
They're strongly funded by ICAP.
Okay.
And I don't know if I should say funded, but they are kind of regulated by
They are regulated
by
by
ICAP. And we just kind of,
I'm assuming it's kind of like what we do for the chamber and the EDC.
yeah, we don't get rich off of it.
When we did Stellar,
Yeah.
we asked the senior center if they would like to move to another building. Because there'd been all kinds of talk about they wanted out of there. And they did not want to move at that point in time. The guy that Corey, Pablo.
And Aaron, one other thing is,
But anyway, that's, as far as seniors, that's a discussion probably for another time.
Right. Well, and the right people
But go ahead,
too.
Val.
and the only other thing I'd have with the the Preservation Commission, we're really trying to work with Brittany and use the guidelines for the time period. So we're trying to be good keepers of that process. So, and it's been challenging sometimes. So please look at that when you're looking at the renditions, and I hope when it comes to the preservation.
And I think when I talked with Scott and Richard about the mural and listened to their frustrations with some of the things that have over the last decade really gone by. I don't think it's anybody's fault necessarily. I just think that nobody's going to read an ordinance on the website. Nobody's going to look through 3 pages of guidelines. And some people, you're just not going to meet them there. But I think that I'm going to try to work with them on summarizing the standards and the guidelines into a trifold, not even a trifold, just a one section, and give that to all your downtown building owners. Those are the ones that have to follow it anyway.
Right.
Because I think that would go a long way.
Oh, and I think everybody's very well intended.
Yeah,
The
right.
intentions are very honorable.
Well, and that's in my conversation with Marsh, who's the president of Indiana Landmarks. He said something about not being nitpicky while he is in charge, because if we can save a building, even if it doesn't meet those guidelines, that's most important. So coming to the middle is good.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we own this building, but we created the Historic Preservation Committee. So even though we own it, we still have to get their approval.
Yeah.
And their,
Will, I'm sure that.
Thank you.
and so that's part of it. Even though we own it, that doesn't give us jurisdiction to just do whatever we want. We still need their advice. And this building has a 3rd floor that has opportunities. We've been working on trying to get it cleaned out, and it's got an elevator to it.
You've just been staging Christmas decorations up there.
Well, I talked
Pylons and
to
stuff.
Mr. Murphy, and he will eventually bring something to us in terms of a study of our, I don't know if the right term would be our upstairs areas in Newcastle, in terms of what they can be used for, how they can best be integrated into something that's going to help our downtown. And one of those spaces that's really, it's a big space, is that area on the third floor of the Murphy Building. So I'm sure, he and Carrie are not slow to ask for money, so I'm sure, especially, I shouldn't say Carrie, that would. But anyway, they'll bring us something that we will probably want to take part in and should help us immensely in terms of making that a better place.
Who's not to say that we get this building nice enough that it might some interest from someone saying, hey, I'd really like to own that building.
You never know.
So you don't know.
But we have to get it to where it's usable before we can do that.
Stephanie, this is awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you, Steph.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, we've had some really good, is there anybody else? Had some really good comments and discussion.
I'll just add-
We're not cutting down trees in the park, so you can flip the disc.
I should have done that Saturday with the wind and blamed it on them. But no, I like it too. I like what you guys are talking about doing in the Murphy Building. I butt heads with Valerie and Scott sometimes on how far we go back on that building's been there for almost 200 years. Which era do you want to go back to?
Yeah.
Do you want to go back to 1800s, 1850, 1900? So you got to watch that, and like Aaron was saying, you can't be nitpicky about it. And maybe going back to wood's not the best sign. You want that look of back then, but the wood is maintenance heavy. We found out on the Henshaw building, trying to stain it, that wasn't the thing to do because that's a yearly maintenance sign. Painting, hopefully you get 5 years out of, but then the wood, how long you'll get out of that even if you keep it painted every 4 or 5 years. So you gotta be careful what you go back to. So.
Well, there's some aluminum doors in it right now. We couldn't.
Yeah, they don't work either, so who knows what the right
we
thing
have.
is.
So there's got to be.
I like what Aaron said, don't be nitpicky about what you go back to. And I brought head with them on our buildings, so.
At least some horse
Well, I think we
tie-outs.
can make this a nice building that can reflect the historic values in Newcastle. And I honestly think Stephanie can do a good job with that. So, anyway, but we've got time because we're going to think about it and then we'll discuss it again next week. Anybody else? We had a great discussion. Okay, we'll go to committee reports. Mr. Walton.
I just would like to remind everyone, if you've not voted yet, please do so tomorrow. You need to vote. I'll be at the American Legion, working the polls, and stop by and say, hey. So please get out and vote.
Okay, Mr. Dickon.
A couple things on the Murphy Building that are unrelated. The vintage windows restoration vendors came and finished out those windows. Come to find out they had not done the trim for that, which was causing part of the gaps in the windows and draftiness. They came back and did that, sent an invoice for it. We had earmarked enough money to cover that, which was with the original project, $625. Just wondered if we could allocate that from Riverboat since we had done that originally.
It's been allocated, so I think.
Well, but I think because the age of the project, those earmarks were reabsorbed.
We want it
So how much?
to take
$625.
Well, I move we allocate $625 for Riverboat to finish this project.
Second.
Second, okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, let's roll call vote.
Jerry Walton.
Aye.
Aaron Dickens.
Aye.
Mark Coder.
Aye.
Lynn Purdue.
Aye.
Rex Beckhoff.
Aye, Kelly, appreciate it.
And then the last part, kind of on the same note, is probably for Mr. Barker, which I know he loves when I say this stuff at the meetings. Is it possible to get some spray foam around those windows before it gets super cold and drafty? On that second floor, remember there's some gaps between the actual windows and the. I think between that and the trim, I think we'll be in good shape.
The trim, is it done or what?
The trim, like they knocked it out.
They did?
Yeah. On the inside. We can, if you want to give me a call or heads up, I'll run over and meet you sometime. We'll look at it. That's all I have.
Okay, Mr. Coder?
All I have is, I've noticed last few weeks, a lot of spray paint on street signs, stop signs, speed limit signs. Obviously vandalism is gonna happen in any city. Just wondering if there's a chemical out there that will take the spray paint off these signs.
We have tried 2 or 3 different ones, Mark, on that, and normally what happens is it dulls the sign and takes off the reflectability of the sign.
That was my worry. And we all know how much street signs cost. So I've just noticed a lot lately, more than normal. You know, I remember Jimmy Kidd sitting over there when they were repainting the viaduct on South 14th. They would paint it, somebody would come back and graffiti it, and his thing was, well, if you keep repainting it, sooner or later, they're not gonna come back and do it. And you know what? That's true. I mean, it held true, it's still holding true down there. So if we could maybe investigate something, you know, if there's, you know, maybe talk to somebody, company or something, if there's something out there that's easy, you know, like you say, I know it probably takes the reflective off, but just try, let's try something, you know.
There's some more companies out there that, I mean, I get flyers all the time about try this and try that.
Well, if you need a little extra money, let us know, but try something, just.
Do you have some old signs that you tried out?
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, but we could spray paint something on an old sign and see if it would take it off.
I think there's a paint that you can spray clear on it, and it's easier to wash the spray paint off. I've seen that advertised.
It might be good to get that. To see all
Yeah,
our
just
signs.
spray paint them all clear.
Just trial and error or something, just to see. That's all I got. Thanks.
Mr. Purdue?
Just real quick, if you haven't been down Trojan Lane yet, in the last couple of days, we have 2 more islands down there that has plants in them. We're starting on the west side, working our way east. So due to the weather, that's probably all the planting we're gonna do this year, but hopefully by spring, we'll have all of it dug out and soil, and then we can complete the planting next year.
Light poles being changed out?
In time, we're a little short on the budget, so I may be coming back at some point asking for some money for that, but we are continuing to get private donations, so it's, the money's still coming in.
Lynn, on that, back, right after school started back, we got several calls.
Right.
Where students coming out of the parking lot could not see because of vegetation.
The grass.
Are you guys going to be mindful of what you're planting?
Oh, yeah, those two, that grass will be coming out in the spring.
Okay.
We're gonna do something different there, and that'll be taken care of on the new plants.
Okay.
Yeah. That was missing on that one.
Who owns the banners on Trojan Lane?
Danny Danielson at the chamber.
The chain, okay.
Missy ordered them on Danny's request. So they're in pretty bad shape. They really should.
They're Hall of Fame banners now, though, right?
That's what I got some
I think
ideas.
the Hall of Fame. I know which banners you're talking about. The orange and green ones, probably, right?
I'm talking about the ones with the basketball players.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, what banners you talking about? The ones on the light pole?
Huh?
Those the Hall of Fame ones that have the players, yeah.
Yeah.
They're real faded.
Okay, Missy ordered them.
So
But
nobody.
I presume that the Hall of Fame owns them.
I was gonna say, I think
That Danny
that's-
paid for them. So there's your paper trail.
Up with Matt.
Sort it out.
Okay.
And they're in really bad shape.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else?
That's all I got.
Lynn, I just want to say thanks for doing that work on that. I think it's going to be great. I have nothing, Your Honor. I'll turn it over to you for.
Chief, Assistant Chief, you have anything today?
I'm just gonna let everybody know, we did get our body cams in. You guys are welcome to pass them around. That was powered off so that you guys can't all record your faces. But every uniform officer does have them. They're out on the street, everything's working correctly. You still have a couple of kind of some IT communication between systems that we're working on that will kind of continue to be a work in progress. The only place they're not currently being worn is in the school, and we're working with Dr. Shoemaker and Mr. Harvey to try to make sure that we are abiding by all state guidelines and that we're doing everything correct on that. So I appreciate the council and the mayor and everybody helping us get to that point. So finally have them in. The only other thing is I would like to get some more information on the Make My Move stuff. We continuously, fairly commonly, get active duty soldiers that are leaving the military that apply to the police department, and it sounds like they may qualify for some of those incentives.
Thanks for your leadership on cameras. And then also, I don't know if anybody took trick-or-treaters out last Monday, but Newcastle Police Department had an incredible relational presence in the community, and thoroughly enjoyed seeing that whole thing.
Took trick-or-treaters out Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
This is one of the most positive things I've heard from citizens in town in a long time.
Yeah, I like that.
For a lot of good things done.
That's all I have.
Dalton, Fire Department.
I have three things. First of all, tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday, the fire department's going to be doing hose testing on Q Avenue. So be careful when you're driving up through there, because we're going to be out in the street there on the south side of Q Avenue between Main and Roosevelt. I'm doing hose testing. The second thing is we were supposed to do a live controlled burn this past Saturday, and with the wind advisory, we obviously couldn't do that. It started out, the weather started out great at 8 o'clock. By 9:30, we were grateful we canceled it. But we're going to do that this coming Saturday at 8 o'clock again, if anybody wants to come down and sit back and watch and see us do some training there. And then the third thing, we all remember the first day of school with the active shooter event that happened, and we realized that there were some deficiencies as far as the fire department goes with our ability to respond to these incidents. We would go anyway, but we just didn't have the safety equipment to do it in a proper manner. The mayor and the council came to us right away, and we took action, and it's been a long road. But we now have ballistic vests for every firefighter, and on this vest we have first aid equipment to take care of the wearer. So all the equipment on here is for me. If I get shot, my partner comes up and takes this equipment out of it and takes care of me. And then we have 6 of these bags. We put 2 on each truck. So when we go in with a team of 2, we have 2 of these that can take care of a minimum of 4 patients. So we'll have 8 patients per team, and then we have 3 teams. So we can do a minimum of 24 patients with this. And then we've worked with police and EMS to come up with a procedure for these types of events where we're all going to be there anyway, so we're all going to have the same page that we're working off of, the same playbook, and be able to do that. So we are grateful to the council, to the mayor, to everybody for supporting this and getting this done. And if anybody wants to come take a look at these after the meeting, I'll be here for a little bit. You can come take a look.
We just hope you never have to use it.
Absolutely, sure.
Chief?
I just wanted to report that Mayor, Assistant Chief Harris, and myself have been working with the county government. We did receive $300,000 of their ARP money to go toward EMS operations. We are the sole ALS provider for the county. It is the county commissioner's fiscal and financial responsibility to provide EMS coverage to the county. That is a one-time payment that and the mayor is going to work with the commissioners to come up with some plans moving forward. We get $300,000 to offset some expenses for EMS operations.
So there's one place where our indebtedness should go down, because now we're $300,000 less.
To the good.
Good, yeah, good.
Can't transfer funds with it.
I know with EMS, you need it, so.
That's all.
Okay. No, nothing. Mike? Dave? Council?
I don't have anything else.
Brandon? Kendra?
December 1st, we're going to a free fare system. So no more fares for any of our citizens. So yeah, that's a good thing. On that, it costs the city about $35 per person for each ride that we offer. So that's what the citizens are actually getting from the city. So I think it's a good thing.
So our bus system is a lot like a taxi cab. I mean, we go certain areas, but we still take calls, specific calls to take them to areas also. So it's going to be a free system. We will have a free bus system.
How many other places have that?
I don't know.
We're the second one in the state right now.
Thanks,
And you guys are running routes tomorrow for voting, right? Which is great service for those that can't get there themselves. So appreciate it.
Anything else? Greg? Lee? Okay, that's all I had.
Okay, we'll move on to resolutions. The first one is Resolution 11072-022-1. Resolution authorizing the allocation of coronavirus local fiscal recovery funds for provision of specified government services, and further amending the city's written plan for expenditure. Now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Newcastle, Indiana as follows. The Common Council hereby allocates a sum of $6,953 to be paid to the East Central Indiana Regional Planning Partnership, contribute to the cost of participation in the partnership by the City of Newcastle and Henry County, Indiana. And I will move to pass this resolution. Second. And any discussion or questions? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Jerry Walden.
Aye.
Aaron Dickens. Mark Hogan.
Aye.
Lynn Purdue. Rex Beckman.
Aye. The next one is a second reading on ordinance 3898, and that one is one where we're lowering the amount of the trash fee that goes into the toter container repair and replacement fund. And I move we pass that on second reading.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Jerry Walden.
Aye.
Aaron Dickens. Mark Hogan. Lynn Purdue. Rex Beckman.
Aye. The last thing was the first reading on ordinance 3899, and I'm going to move we table that until next meeting. That way our other two council members who have districts can participate, and also that gives people time to look at it and see if they think it is proper. So motion to table, is there a second for that?
I'll second that.
There's been a seconded motion to table 3899. Roll call vote.
Jerry Walden.
Aye.
Aaron Dickens. Mark Hogan. Lynn Purdue. Rex Beckman.
Aye. That's the conclusion of our business. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, adjourn.
Don't forget to vote tomorrow if you haven't already voted. Patty, we need to talk to you and Sarah.
You want to get me out? Yeah, we want our picture.
I got
Well, I think that she could find it. I told her that. She's like,
Let's talk about it.
she's like,
I went back through the only